Fix bayonets, brothers and sisters. This is the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show with your host, Michael F. Tooman. I'm going to talk about all things national security and defense. Other topics I can include are personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in, ask me questions. I'll get your answers. Matt, what's the call-in number?
Yeah, that call-in number here, 847-931-1410. I'm also here in the production seat, helping out here with Chief Guard of the Republic. Looking forward to this show. I hope you are too.
I am. I'm very excited about it. A lot of anxiety going on, but now that I'm here, it's all falling away. So I took over the show from Bill, and he was doing the Four Corners Radio. And so I'm going to be covering the time slot between Labor Day and Memorial Day. Hopefully I'll keep on if I like it and things are working out. And I was thinking about the topics that I could cover, and my expertise is really in like military things. I was a Chief Warrant Officer 5 in the Army Reserve and the National Guard. So I did 38 years total. I was promoted from the high rank of Private E1, which is almost the lowest rank you can get in the military. Okay. There is one lower rank.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You want to move the mic a little closer?
Okay.
So I can hear you. Perfect.
So Private E0 is actually the lowest rank, and that's the rank they give to prisoners.
Okay.
Right. So if you go to Leavenworth or one of the other military detention facilities, they give you Private E0. So I never attained that rank. I'm glad to say, but I want PV1, Private E1, Private E2, Private E3, or they call it Private First Class, or if you spend too long in that rank, they start calling you the First Private. And then I was made it to Buck Sergeant, then Staff Sergeant, then Sergeant First Class, which is Platoon Sergeant level. And that's the first one where you're actually promoted by Department of the Army Authority.
Okay.
Every other rank is dependent on the battalion or company will promote you. And then I decided instead of going to First Sergeant, which would be the senior non-commissioned officer in a company, I would go to Warrant Officer in military intelligence. So I was able to get into the Guard, and then I was selected for Warrant Officer, and then I went right up the ranks. It took me a while, over 20 years to make it to CW5. So I had a lot of experience, 3 deployments in Afghanistan, 1 in Bosnia, before Afghanistan, of course, and then 1 to Haiti. I know there's a lot of talk about Haiti right now. I was there in '94 when President Clinton sent us down there to reinstate, at that time, President Aristide of the Haitian Republic. But I've been around the world, and one thing I've dealt with is a lot of kids coming in the Army. And sometimes they come in and they're not very sure what they wanted to do. So they go to a recruiter, and I don't really have anything bad to say about recruiters. If you've been in the Army a while, you know that that's one of the toughest jobs out there. They are held to a high standard, and they have a quota they have to make. So if they want a high rating, they got to get kids in. And then the Army tells them, this is the field we need. So you might go in there wanting to be a truck driver, but they really need combat engineers. So they're going to try to talk you into being a combat engineer or whatever, because they're going to check that box. But there's more than just truck driver, infantry, field artillery, tanker, all the things you think about in the Army and in the whole military. There's almost every job you could imagine is in the military, and it's available to these kids coming in. So I know about a lot of those because I've been around there. And if I don't have a specific answer for anyone calling in with a question like that, I'll make a note of it, and I will come back next week with the proper answer. One of the things that I learned, not so much taught, they teach you a little bit, but in military intelligence, you have to know how to search databases. You have to know how to manipulate databases to get, not to get information you want to hear, but to get the truth. Because and this is where I thought I was pretty successful in military intelligence, because my job as a Chicago police detective was, to get to the truth of things. Right? So I found that this is kind of like Sherlock Holmes, if you've read Arthur Conan Doyle. And Sherlock Holmes, probably Arthur Conan Doyle repeating something some other philosopher said, so I can't exactly quote it. But once you eliminate all the other possibilities, once you eliminate them, whatever's left, no matter how ridiculous or no matter how unbelievable, that's the truth. Because you've eliminated it. It's the only thing it could be. All the other possibilities have been eliminated. So I would go with a process of elimination. All right? I kind of have in the back of my head what I thought happened or who I think did it, right? But I would eliminate suspects until I got down to the one suspect I couldn't eliminate.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're doing a deep dive, a deep search, and you're like...
Yeah, it's like, alibis, person's got an alibi, okay, move on to the next one. There are other investigator types and intelligence types that they immediately have an idea of what happened, and they work backwards to prove their theory.
Okay.
So that's where you get into problems, right? Because there are other options out there, but they're going to dismiss them for whatever reason they could find just to prove their theory. And sometimes it works, and usually, here's the key to it, right? When I was a detective, I would go to the victim, and I would go, who do you think did this? And they would tell me. And I'll tell you what, 95% of the time, that was it. That was it, but there's that other 5%. There's other 5%. So you don't want to take an innocent person and jam them up because they just happen to be that 5%. But that's why you can usually work backwards and try to prove something, because you're playing the odds of 95%. Mm-hmm. So if anyone got questions about that, I'm sorry, I'm Southwest Side Chicago.
Oh, that's okay.
You're going to hear a lot of D's, Dems, and Do's, and you're going to hear a lot of gots. I'm sure my mother's hair, she's like, oh my God, my son's got such a, such a loose grasp of the English language, But no, I have a lot of experience and, training. But you know what? It's good to have training, but experience is a lot better. I found that if you just read how to do something, you could read it 10 times in the manual, and then you're still following the manual step by step when you try to do it. Mm-hmm. But after you've done it three times, you're done. You pretty much know how to do it.
Yeah, and then it's the same with radio too. When you work the board, you can read the manual on how to use the board, but then actually, fiddling with the bells and whistles and doing it a couple times, and you.
That board there intimidates me.
It intimidates you?
Yeah, too many switches and everything.
Oh, for me, I love this. I like this board even better than the one we had before. It's very nice, clean cut, and pretty easy to use as well, too. Yeah. So what I'll also do here, too, during the show is if we do have comments in the chat, I'll acknowledge them here.
Oh, please.
So we've got the Dutchman's Wood Shack commenting in here. Hi, everybody.
Oh, hey, Dutch.
Yeah, he definitely loves to tune in.
He does?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Oh, I know Dutch.
You do?
Yeah, Dunkin' Donuts veterans, the American Legion. Dutch is a little bit bigger in the VFW than he is in the American Legion, but he's very active. And of course, the best one, I know we're in Kane County, but the Veterans Assistance Commission of Cook County. Dutch is instrumental of getting that going, and all the other veterans in Cook County should look it up, Veterans Assistance Commission of Cook County. The counties gets a lot of tax money and everything. They should be spending a lot more of it on the veterans in Cook County. I know Lake County, who has less veterans than us, spends like $5 million, and I think Cook County's not even up to $3 million yet. So yeah, what's Dutch's question?
Oh no, he just says hi everybody. The Dutchman's Wood Shack here. We've also got Paul saying hi, Mike, and Rose also comments in. Saying
yeah, Paul's my bestest friend in the whole wide world.
Oh nice.
He's a Cook County State's attorney. And he was also with the there's the state's attorneys, and then there's the attorney general's office. So he was with the attorney general's office, and that's like the lawyers for the state. Where the state's attorneys are prosecutors, the attorney generals are the lawyers for the state. They back up the state. And like if the state, but then the Rose, that's my sister. It's my little sister,
nice.
Rose.
Very nice.
I'm glad that they're listening. I'm glad they're out there. It makes me happy, getting some support out there.
That's good. Very good. So, if you don't mind me asking, what got you interested in becoming part of the part of what you did?
Oh, so all right. So I come from a long line of military service members.
Okay.
At least I could back it up to my grandfather on my father's side. He came over to the United States during World War I, and then went back over to France to fight. And then my uncles on my dad's side, they were all in the service. My Uncle Mitch was in World War II, drafted right out of high school. And my Uncle Charlie was in Japan. He was with the occupational forces over there, signed to Japan. My Uncle Eugene was in Germany, and he was with the Air Force when they did the Berlin airlift. And my dad was a paratrooper with the 11th Airborne Division. So growing up, I had a lot of, impact on that. And, when we're kids, we're always playing, World War II. And I was a young kid during the Vietnam War also. So, no, I wasn't old enough to go to the Vietnam War. I remember a supply sergeant I had in the reserves, and I was just a young kid at the time. And he's screaming at me. He says, "I was in Vietnam. Where were you?" I says, let's see, 1968, I was 5 years old, holding my breath until my parents signed the permission letter to let me join the Army, but they wouldn't. I was only 5. Those guys did a great job and everything. Mm-hmm. That wasn't my time period. By 1972, they ended the draft, and in 1975, the Vietnam War era was over, and I did not join the Army until 1982. All right, and a little reason that was I didn't do as great in college as I thought I would.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up joining the Army, which was a good thing. And then, of course, my father was a police officer, and my dad was a great guy. I'll never live up to him. He was like the guy I aspired to be, except for the chain smoking part. I could do without that. I quit smoking. I won't start again. It's after what I saw it did to the greatest man in my life, who I consider one of the greatest men in the world, right? That's what smoking does to you. And, so I really wanted to be a police officer. I thought it was a great thing. In the 90s there, the economy still wasn't that great. And I took the test, I got the job. I was already married with a young child. Had good benefits and everything. And I went out there, and I was proud of myself. I was hopefully not too proud of myself to the narcissistic level, but
Yeah.
It was a job where you can help people. You could help yourself, unfortunately, but you learned a lot, right? If you kept your eyes open, not only were you helping people, you're like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
so you have things like, I've never experienced this situation before, but if the opportunity comes up, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Because you see what it did. So I was lucky that after 6 years in patrol, which that is a tough job. God bless all these kids that got on the job. Being under scrutiny. All right, you're out there for 8 hours. Half hour you get lunch, so it's like 8 and a half hours you're under public scrutiny. But even after that, in your off-duty time, people find out you're the police. Your neighbors know you're the police and everything, and you gotta walk a fine line with them. Your neighbors could be out smoking marijuana on their back porch because it's legal and everything. You can't. And if they catch you doing it, even if they're doing it, they'll drop a dime on you because maybe you didn't bring your garbage cans in early enough for them or something. So that's the type of job that was. It's very you have to be paranoid to stay alive, but then it makes you even more paranoid, right? But hey, the job kept food in my kids' bellies, right? I sent them to school and everything, kept a roof over my head, but I was out there learning, and I'd like to pass on a little bit of that knowledge to people. You know, you give me a question and I'll answer it. I was talking and they say they got domestic violence week coming up. I don't want to, the police commissioner, or the police chief here, I don't want to, take any of her thunder or anything. But I did do domestic violence as a detective for years.
Okay.
So that I have some inside information on what to do. One, don't get arrested. There.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So we've got some comments here too. Brendan says, hi, everybody. We've got Paul here. Mike was one of the youngest detective in history of CPD, it says there too.
I don't know about that. I worked with a young guy. He came on, he took they made it a rule kind of because of this kid, because you had to have 2 years on the job to take the test. Now, when I came on the job, you were a probationary police officer for 1 year. So you didn't have all the protections of the agreement, the contract with the city, which gives you a lot more due process before they fire you. So if you're a probationary police officer, they could fire you on a whim, right? Later on, they made that 18 months. They didn't think a year was long enough. I don't think the union should have given that to them, but 18 months. This kid took the test at 2 years on the job. So you're in the academy for over 6 months, right? But he was a smart kid, and he got out there and he just started doing detective work. And he was a good detective. So he was a lot younger than me. I came on the job, I got to do the math, right? Like I was 26. So I was 32 when I made detective.
Okay.
So there were some old guys made detective. And that's pretty amazing. Guy was on the job for 35 years.
Wow. So he saw the technology change.
Oh, God, these guys all saw lots of technology. One of the guys I worked with, and he wrote a book. I'm sorry that I don't have the title of it. Frank Goff. This guy was an old-time patrolman. He worked a lot he did a lot of narcotics work. Undercover narcotics work. So he came on the job and he went from patrol and he was doing a lot of undercover work. And he was on the job for quite a while doing this, and then he made detective.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Pardon me. I know there's a book, Chicago Crime Story, a true crime novel.
Yes. Yeah.
That one. Yeah. And you can find that one also. It's on Amazon as well.
Yeah. I read both of his books there. He's got another one out there that was like his autobiography. And I worked with him for a very short period of time. He was on afternoons in the auto theft section, and I was on the midnights because I had 6 years on the job. When you make detective, your seniority carries over. So detective seniority and patrolman seniority are the same. If you make sergeant, your seniority starts again. So there were guys coming in making detective that had a lot more seniority than me, even though they made detective after me. So yeah, Frank, that's one thing Frank never mentioned he was in auto theft. Oh, that was a great job. That was an absolute great job. Because imagine every other investigation you're doing, like who do you think wanted to kill so-and-so, right? Well, they got enemies. Someone wants to kill them unless it's a random bullet hitting them, right? And why would you want to rob the store, all right? And then you get forensic evidence, and you know exactly when the store was robbed. And some guy reports his car stolen because he parked it, and when he got off work at 6 p.m., he came to get his car to drive to work at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Like 14 hours later, and it's gone. It's like, well,
Oh my goodness.
You know when it was stolen? I don't know. You know who would want to steal it? Someone who needed a car?
Yeah.
But so those investigations were a little more, you had to really put some labor into it.
Yeah.
To get these things. Well, you know who the major crime guys were back in the day, guys running the chop shop. So they eliminated the auto theft section in the city, and that was to fudge the numbers on detectives. They wanted to put more detectives in the area and say, oh, look, we got more detectives, rather than just promoting, because if you promote a detective, you lose a patrolman.
Yeah.
So they send us to the areas, and there were 5 areas in the city, geographical areas, where you would cover, like, each geographical area covered about 5 districts. Right? And I told my partner, we got sent to Area 4, which was Harrison and Kedzie, and that's the Wild West side. I says, watch this, Laura, watch this. This is going to be a baptism by fire, because I worked there in patrol, right? And so we come from auto theft, and they say, oh, you're only supposed to do auto theft jobs. We're on the midnights in Area 4, and they go, oh, we got a triple homicide. Tuman, Suarez, go handle it. I'm like, did it involve a stolen car? Because we were told we were only doing auto theft. They're like, shut up and handle the job. I'm like, so it's an investigation, right? You know, we got some training in the academy. That was like 5 years ago, you know, and there were some older guys there to kind of working the desk and everything. So we really had some good mentors that gave us the stuff, but it's just a step-by-step investigation.
Yeah.
You know, so, yeah, so but the Army, yeah, okay, so police department, you have to take a test, right? They have to be hiring. You could wait years. They're going to do a background check on you, make sure you don't have any unpaid parking tickets. That's the number one failure of people becoming the police is the unpaid parking tickets. Because they look that up and they say, oh, sorry, you failed. You got these unpaid parking tickets.
Exactly, yeah.
But the Army, as long as you don't have some serious felony convictions, they're going to take you. And even if you have a felony conviction, there's a thing called a moral waiver.
Okay.
So you can apply for a waiver. You know, maybe you pled guilty to one charge that you didn't really do, or you didn't think you did it, just to get out of Cook County Jail or to have it go away, and you got arrested for the same thing later on, and the second offense is a felony.
Okay.
So, yeah, so if you're remotely physically fit, all right, remotely physically fit, and you don't have any major disabilities, you go into a recruiter's office, they'll find a job for you.
Got 30 seconds.
Okay. So before we go to commercial, please call in. What's the number again?
Yeah, that number is 847-931-1410. That's the number to dial. Of course, you can also comment live on youtube.com at WRMN Radio. We do acknowledge those comments as well. So stay tuned, folks. We'll be back with more Chief Guard of the Republic here in just... All right, welcome back.
All right. So, like, depending on your personality type, either job, military or the police department, is kind of what you make out of it, but they are high-stress jobs. Certain parts of the jobs, not so much, but they're high-stress jobs. And learning to deal with that was constant with me. So one of the things that I did, once I retired and I had more time and my kids were grown and moved out of the house, and I started writing. I had some ideas kicking around in my head, and I just wanted to get them out there. I didn't go to college for journalism. I didn't do very well in English. But I did write a lot of reports, military intelligence reports and police reports. And although I joked, I says, yeah, I'm really good at fiction. But because you tell what people tell you, right? And a lot of times they're telling you stuff that just isn't true.
Yeah.
But you put it down verbatim. This is what they told you. All right. You don't say verbatim.
Is that why you said you're good at fiction?
Yeah. Anyway, so my books turned out to be fiction, and a lot of times I'm not saying ranting, but venting in a way that has a plot. And so if you're on YouTube there's my first 12 novels, and all the way down at the bottom, scrolling a little more, that's the last novel I wrote, the Alabama Triad. I was going to call it American Triad, but that hack, George R.R. Martin, already used that term.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh man, I'm not gonna even scroll into that guy's domain.
I like this one here, the spot on. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, spot on.
That's
So
a nice painting picture. Very cool.
that's so that's kind of a famous painting, Boy with Gun, older one, found it on the internet. Doesn't have, what do you call it, no royalties attached to it.
Okay, so no royalties.
So it's, what's the term for that?
Copyright?
Not copyright, license free. So it was
Okay.
license free. So I didn't have to license it off anyone. But I did change it. The kid had brown eyes in the original painting. But that's my baby daughter's eyes.
Aw.
So I photoshopped in it. And I don't use Photoshop. I'm a Linux guy.
Okay.
So I use a lot of Linux programs because they're free.
Yeah. I use a lot of free programs. Well, I have one that's not that I pay for, but because I use it a lot.
And I was writing my novel Under Platoon, which is a military novel, and it's about a group of guys that go to Afghanistan. And one of the characters, because you have iconoclastic people in the military, you'll always see them. You'll have the sharpshooter, the guy who really knows how to shoot. You'll have your holy roller guy, you'll have the muscle head. You'll have the Joker guy. You'll have the professor, the brains. You'll have the guy that scrounges up stuff when you need it. So iconoclastic characters. Well, Spot On was my South Carolina country boy, and he was the sniper of the team, the marksman of the team. Okay. And he had a real interesting backstory. Because I always write a backstory to the characters, a short one. I says, well, his backstory will make an entire novel. So I wrote it, and it was fun writing. I think it's an heiress, all right, goes missing, all right, and she's an heiress to a huge fortune, right? But her half-twin brother. Half-twin brother. And, okay, so sometimes the mother can be impregnated by two different men.
Really?
It's a rare situation. You look it up, and it's possible. So, like, if she's ovulating, all right, from both sides, usually that's the way non-identical twins, all right?
Because I'm an identical twin.
Yeah, you're an identical twin.
100%.
That's because the zygote, I might be getting the terms wrong, split early, all right? Into two separate. But this is where two separate ovum are fertilized.
So they're half twins.
So she's impregnated by two different men.
And the fact that they're also boy and girl twins are already
They're not
fraternal.
identical. Yeah, they're fraternal.
So they share
That's
only
the term I
50%.
was looking for.
Yeah, fraternal.
And so the son, who's the second born, is no blood to the father, who's the rich guy. But no one really knows that.
Okay.
The mother keeps it highly secret through other ways. But the daughter, she's full blood to him, And things happen and she goes missing. And she has a son, and he's the actual heir to the fortune. But he doesn't know it, and she doesn't tell him.
Huh. That's it. That's a very interesting. Like I said before, I've never heard of that half twin.
Yes.
That's already interesting as it is, and then of course you incorporate that into the story too. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to read this.
Yeah.
The unknown heir, the secret family member. See, I love stuff like that because I love family history.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, is this this person? Yeah. You do the DNA testing and you're like, oh, that person's actually half, or not related, or things like that.
Yeah.
Who was this other relative that came up?
There was always that story about the mother. The kid would go out and get wanted to get DNA tested, and the mother would throw a fit. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You're not getting DNA tested.
Yeah.
Because the mother knew, but she never told the father.
Well, when my brother and I got DNA tested, we came up as identical twins. We're like, no, really? We already knew. And then we got two younger half brothers.
Yeah.
So.
But what's interesting is they say that the first child is usually 50-50 DNA. And I don't know how this works out, but the other children down the line usually have more DNA from the father than they do the mother. And you would think it's a 50-50 thing.
Really?
But I'm not an expert in genealogy or in genetics, right? I'm not a genetic scientist. I just heard that on the internet. So if someone thinks that's false or knows where it's at, call in and let me know.
I don't know. Half siblings usually share about 25%. My half brother through my birth mother shares 30%. So it's a little more.
Yeah.
And he's younger. So I'm like, I don't know. Unless our fathers are related somehow, maybe. And then there's some DNA crossing. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, we're all related down somewhere. Adam and Eve go all the way back.
There you go. We've got Charles in the comments here. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Charles.
Says hello. Thank you so much for joining us in the conversation here today. So again, some of these novels, they are, again, beautifully designed here, too. This one is catching my eye here, too. I Married a Bot.
I Married a Bot, Madam.
About Madam. Now, there's an ad that's playing here, too, that we
Yeah, because I wrote 13 novels. They're all my children, but this one's my favorite.
Now, this picture, was this, that's a generated image?
Okay, so the I did all my own graphics except for the last book, and that is a royalty-free picture of a Belarusian girl in the background.
Okay.
So I kind of made the picture what they call partial transparent, and then I found a motherboard from an old computer, and I put her picture over that, and then the other surrounding is like you would use for a breadboard for an integrated circuit board. And then I used the green there, because she, as a small child in Belarusia living in an orphanage, is able to, she writes her own operating system from scratch.
Wow. I thought she looked Russian.
Yeah, well, Belarusian.
Yeah.
It's a separate country now. It used to be part of the Soviet Republic.
Okay.
But and it used to be part of Russia, but after World War I, after things broke up, Belarus stepped off from Republic of the Soviet Union to be its own country, and they still kind of lean highly communist.
Okay.
So she's out there, trying to make a little bit of money with her knowledge of computers and stuff, and then the counterposition to that is the hero of the book, the guy that marries her, unknowing to him initially, right? And he's a trust fund orphan. He's born to some well-to-do parents later in life, right? And they die, but he's still young, and he inherits this trust. They set up a nice trust for him, and he had turned himself into a professional gamer. He didn't even need the trust money. He was earning enough money online by creating characters and selling them to people that didn't want to put the work in.
Yeah.
So he meets her, and they both aggravated the organized crime in their own countries, and now they have to deal with it.
Interesting. Yeah, some of these, I mean, you've got...
the Public Guardians, that was the second book that I wrote, and that's all based on actual investigations I did as a detective. But it's a comedy, a dark crime comedy.
Very cool. Yeah, so folks, if you're interested, you can go on to his, what's the website name?
All right, so the easy one is scilink.net. So that's Paul, Sam, Young, Lincoln, Ida, Nora, King.net.
That's a long...
Scilink.net. No, it's one word. I'm just phonetically spelling.
Okay.
So it's PSYLINK.net. Now, that's based on the longer name, Flying Monkey 5 November, which is a little long to type in.
Yeah.
So I cloned the site and put it under another domain. Name.
Okay. And then you've got, of course, your information here too.
Yeah,
Tell us
some
a
of
little
it.
bit about it. Now,
yeah.
what is what's the Flying Monkey number?
5 November.
5 November. What is that about?
Okay, so I'm over in Bosnia, and we're an ad hoc unit from different states. We're all put together for a psychological operation mission there. And my commander plays a lot of Magic the Gathering, and he wants to be the wizard for his call sign. So we had 3 teams: the Tin Man, all right? Mm-hmm. We had the Lion, we had the Scarecrow, and I certainly wasn't going to be Dorothy as the operations guy. So I says, hey, the flying monkeys are pretty cool. They terrified me as a child, and I'm a paratrooper. So flying monkey. Now the 5 was because I was operations. In November, identified the fact that I was an NCO. So when I'm on the radio, when I went Flying Monkey 5 November, they said, oh, he's a PSYOP guy, he's operations, and he's the NCO.
Okay.
All right, so they knew that, which was great because I had such a funny call name that when I went through the TOC, the Tactical Operations Center, and got my ticket punched to leave the gate and go on a mission, all those guys knew me. They knew who I was. So when I had to call in for support on the radio, I was a person and not just a disembodied voice over the air.
Right.
Like now, except we got YouTube, so you can see me.
There you go. Folks, we're going to take a quick time out, and we'll be back with more here in just a bit. So, of course...
6 bayonets, brothers and sisters, we're back.
Yes, we are. Absolutely. And we actually do have a caller on hold here. So, you know what we're going to do here, folks, is we're going to take it to the phone lines. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Mike, it's Paul.
Yeah, I know, Paul. I figured that out.
Yeah, it's a great show. Hey, listen, did you want to maybe share some thoughts of what was your most interesting case as a detective?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah. All right, so one of the most interesting cases I had was when I was working homicide. And they found a dead body in a dumpster. And it had a knife wound to the center of the chest, right where the sternum would be. And they immediately assumed it was a homicide because you got a body in a dumpster with a knife wound to the chest. But after my investigation, first thing I saw is dumpster was pretty empty. So I was looking for what was underneath the body when we got the body out to transport it to the morgue, because I figured that was the last person that saw the dumpster without the body in it. And that would give me a time hack on possibly the last time the body wasn't in the dumpster, kind of a time hack on when the body got there to start the investigation. It was a lot of Russian literature down there because there's a Russian community up there. This was up by the Bob Newhart building up near Sheridan Road. But later on, we got him to the morgue, and I fingerprinted him and took the fingerprints in, and I was able to identify him by a domestic violence arrest he had. And I contacted his wife, who wasn't really his ex-wife yet, but they were married, and let her know that he had passed away. That was pretty rough doing. But after I got everything from the story, because you don't want to sit through an autopsy. But at the autopsy, I thought, hey, knife wound to the chest, probably killed the guy. They open him up, and it's superficial. It's maybe a 1/4 inch deep. So now what killed him, right?
Yeah.
So now I have to wait. Nothing else obviously killed him. And because I knew the guy was Ukrainian and Russian, and I'm sorry to say this, but it might be a little insensitive of me, but a lot of those guys are heavy drinkers, all right? And I thought that you'd be able to hammer in this guy's liver, hammer in nails with this guy's liver, but his liver was perfect. Wow. He had a perfect liver, right? The doctor said, this is nice, nice liver. So I was getting, what possibly killed him. And the investigation revealed, they still had it listed as a homicide. The investigation revealed that he had overdosed on Benadryl. He took like 200 Benadryl. And his wife, who he was separated from, he was trying to get back in with her, and he was kind of play acting. He tried to stab himself, but she was a stout little thing, and she was able to disarm him, take the knife away, but he already had a plan. He already had some Benadryl mixed up in a glass. And so he drank it down, and now she freaks out, and she calls the police, which she had called on him a couple months ago and sent him to Cook County Jail on a domestic beef, and he was not going back to jail. So he runs out with his socks on and a jogging suit. And I figured he was running down the alley. It was a very long alley, 2 blocks long. That's like a quarter of a mile without an exit. And there's no gangways between, these are just all apartment buildings. So you got to go all the way down 2 blocks. By this time, I figured Benadryl's pumping through his system. Right? And he finds a dumpster because he's going to hide from the police in a dumpster. And this one was pretty clean. He goes in, he slips, he bonks his head a little bit. The bonk to the head didn't kill him. But he fell in such a way that his head was right in the lower corner of the dumpster. And he died from positional asphyxiation.
Wow.
So I took this to the medical examiner, chief medical examiner, commonly known as the coroner, right? And I presented it to him, and they don't often overturn homicide findings, right? But he said he would represent the case to the board, which is the forensic doctors there. They all have a board like once a day, and they decide whether a case is going to be a homicide, an accidental, a natural, whatever. Mm-hmm. So he represented it to this board, and they voted on it that it was an accidental death. Huh. All right. So they, it wasn't a suicide, kind of accidental. One thing the families don't want to hear is that they had a suicide, that the kid was a suicide. They just don't want to hear it. Mm-hmm. So he was an accidental death. So I actually got credited not with solving a homicide, but taking a homicide off the books. Yeah. So that was one of the most interesting ones because I got to use the Russian language that I learned in the Army. And, but, people were telling me to speak English because my Russian hurt their ears.
Yeah. I'm trying to learn some Russian too because I was adopted from there. So I'm like, yeah. It's definitely, it can be difficult to learn. I don't know from your experience, was it kind of difficult to learn?
Well, I was at the language school, so the military language school. That's one of the things I'd like to talk to kids. I didn't know that opportunity existed. I would have joined up for that, right away. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's 12 months in Monterey, California for most languages. And it's a college type town. And you're getting paid. And you're earning college credit. And you're doing your military service. And you're learning a language. It's one of the hidden gems that hardly anyone knows about. But it's fantastic. But if you don't practice it all the time, languages, unless you're a language sponge, my son is kind of a language sponge. He puts me to shame with foreign languages. But he gets that from his mother. His mother's a lot better with that. But there are guys I met in the Army that, they're sponges. They just absorb the language and they speak it right back. It's a certain brain set, Mm-hmm. So, that was probably one of the pinnacle cases of my career, Paul.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I don't want to mention names or anything or go in any more detail. I don't want to embarrass any family members. That's not what I'm about. I'm not a shock jock there.
There you go. Well, thanks for calling in, Paul. Did you want to add anything?
No, just congratulations on the show and happy birthday.
Oh, thanks.
All righty. Bye-bye now. Wait, is it your birthday?
Tomorrow.
Well, happy birthday. Very nice. Are you going to do something fun?
We're doing, so I'm with the American Legion, and we're doing an installation of officers for the 9th District.
Nice.
So we're doing that at the Schiller Park Community Center. So our guys are coming there and everything. So it's kind of like I'm getting installed as the president of the 9th District for the American Legion for the 1st Division, Department of Illinois, and along with the auxiliary president and the president of the squadron for the Sons of the Legion. And so I'm going to treat it as my own I'm going to hijack it as my personal birthday party. At least that's what I'm going to say in my head. Look, all this food for me and all these people came for my birthday. I'm not telling them, right? And it's out on the radio now, but
yeah.
I want to, if I wanted to do something for my birthday, that's what I would want to do. And
there you go. Absolutely. So American Legion is what you're part of. What's the post?
Post 104. Okay. So I was the commander of Post 104 in Schiller Park, even though I live in Chicago. But one of our newer members, but great guy, he's very involved in the Schiller Park area. Right, he took over as commander for me, so that I could do commander of the 9th District, which is the next level up. So That's Bob Lukowski, and he's doing a great job already. He's got a lot more, what do you call, hustle than I did at the time. You know, and I think I took it over because no one else wanted it, and I didn't want to see the post that I've been a member of for so long fall apart. So I took it over from another guy, and he only gave it up because he was really busy with other things, you know. So hopefully we get a lot more members that could be a lot more active, and that's what's happening now. One of them actually found this on our webpage. We have a very difficult webpage to remember, post104.org. It's got some good information on there. The links page will take you to any of the veterans type sites, like for the Army or for the state, and one of the important things for the for the National Archives. So a lot of people need their paperwork. You go to our links page, it has all the flags there, click on the National Archives flag, and it'll take you right to their webpage.
There you go. Very nice. You can check out the dates, the events, things that are going to be coming up here too, some from the past as well.
Yeah. Can you go back one?
Yeah.
The little character there, one of the things we do is we have a poppy coloring contest for the kids. And on our Patriots page, I scan in and upload all these pictures so the parents could see them. I mean, the kids drew them, whether they took 10 minutes or whatever to do it, they still deserve to be recognized. And this is one of the characters just made me laugh. I couldn't tell whether he was saluting or holding a monocle.
Yeah, right.
Either way, it made me laugh. He's a great character, so we made him our mascot. That's Sergeant Schiller.
I like it. That's cute.
Yeah, and the
Very
kid
nice.
did a great job.
Very, very nice. You can take a look here at the gallery as well. So we go post104.org in Schilling Park.
And we just celebrated our 100th anniversary, so lower down, that's all the pictures from our 100th anniversary.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Lots of people coming on out. That was a great time.
Oh, we did have a great time.
Very cool. I bet you had
The
good
band
food.
there,
Yeah.
Al Greshnick band, he plays at the Green Mill, which is famous from the movie Thief, right? He plays at the Green Mill. There he is. All right. Those guys did a great job. They're fantastic. Not that I'm getting money to sponsor, but hey, I'm going to give props where I see them.
Absolutely. And there you are.
You know, there I am with Melissa I'm sorry, Melissa. I'll get it right next time. She runs Shero Coffee, SHERO. So it's like hero and she.
Okay.
And she supports a lot of female veterans things, right? So she was a warrant officer in the Army, you know. So if you look up Shero Coffee, SHERO Coffee, you'll find her webpage. And I subscribe to her coffee. I mean, you could buy coffee anywhere. I subscribe because it supports veteran stuff.
Awesome. Very, very nice. We're approaching here the end of the show. Thanks so much for joining us here with Chief Guard of the Republic. Is there anything you'd else like to add? I got about 30 seconds left.
Matt, you're a great producer and a great person to bounce things off of and ask me questions. You know, even if you don't see them up on the net, anything you want answered, you know, I'll answer.